Saya sedih karena adik saya di situ tidak melawan. Dia sama sekali tidak melawan, dia hanya tiduran, tengkurap tanpa perlawanan, dengan keadaan tangan yang terikat, kaki terikat, terus lehernya juga terikat. Itu 1 jam dia tengkurap tanpa perlawanan. Itu yang bikin saya sedih.
As an Indonesian kid who grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s, I remember sitting in front of the TV in the afternoon watching a wide range of programs from anime to Indonesian sitcom, enjoying it just long enough until my mom scolds me to help her with dinner preparations. A program that I particularly enjoyed was a sitcom called Genie Oh Genie. Basically, the premise of the show was about a struggling male diver that had found a big shell during his dive. Frustrated that it didn't contain any pearls, he decided to leave the shell at the beach. While wallowing on his misery at the same beach, the shell started moving and suddenly a beautiful genie poofed into existence. Feeling thankful that she was saved, she pledged loyalty to him and would grant him all his wishes, and not just limited to 3. It's not really Academy Award material or anything like that, but it was quite funny and entertaining. The show ran for 2 seasons, and during the 2nd season, the actress who played the original Genie left the show to continue her family business. However, her character Genie wasn't immediately replaced. The showrunners decided to add another Genie character. This new Genie was named Sania, and I guess in shorter terms would intern under Genie's guidance before her departure to some otherworldly realm or something like that. Of course, you guys are probably wondering why am I rambling about a 90s TV show that aside from Indonesian people, other people might not have even heard about it. Well, the Genie character Sania was portrayed by an up-and-coming rising star named LIDYA Pratiwi. And today we are going to discuss how her family's decision and her naivete shattered a family and in her own statements, quote, ruined my future and tarnished my acting career, end quote. Hi, my name is Vida, and today we are going to talk about the twisted case of LIDYA Pratiwi. On the 28th of April 2006, Hotmana Hutagalung was anxiously waiting for her son to come home. It was unusual for her son, Naik Hutagalung, to stay out until the wee hours of the morning. She tried calling him, but to no avail. When she woke up the next day, she was hoping that his car would already be in the driveway, but this wasn't the case either. She decided to call one of Naik's modeling friends who told her that he was hanging out with another fellow model. She was starting to feel that something bad had happened to her son. So they, as in Naik's mother, father, and sister, decided to visit the police station to report a missing persons case. After reporting the whole incident to an appointed officer, the officer mentioned that they had found an unidentified body and it's now resting at the morgue of Cipto Mangunkusumo Hospital. This officer suggested that they should go take a look, and if they are willing, another officer will escort them to the place. Her and her family agreed to take a look, but in reality, they were all fearing the worst.
Kita cek langsung ke rumah sakit Cipto, dan di situ dikatakan nggak ada. Di sini ada juga orang dari bule, karena anak saya ini ada sedikit bule-bulean gitu. Nggak ada, cuman ada ini. Terus saya waktu itu nggak sanggup melihat, cuman suami saya tidak, memang di situ dan anak saya. Keluarga rasanya terpukul, hati ini remuk. Begitu tiba-tiba kita.
Of course, this information lays heavy on Hotmana, who did mention that she had a bad feeling letting him hang out on that day.
Memang waktu itu saya sudah melarang, seperti ada perasaan saya yang tidak enak. Saya larang terus, kenapa kamu pergi malam-malam? Memang anak ini nggak pernah keluar malam. Sebentar, Ma, ada yang penting.
The 33-year-old Naik Hutagalung was the fourth child out of 5 siblings. To continue his family business, he majored in architecture at a prestigious private university to become a contractor. Due to his attractive appearance, he would often be casted as a model, and he would also appear on several commercials, such as this KFC commercial. He was also known to be a homebody. He would rarely go out and would spend a lot of his time with his family, and if he did go out, it would be with his parents. He was particularly close to his mother. It was easy for him to talk about anything to her. So it seems that life was going very well for Naik. He has a great job and a side job that not only gave him extra income but also quite a bit of fame. However, this was all cut short when a friend whom he had interest in called him to meet and perhaps to have dinner together. Lydia Pratiwi was 19 when her career in acting started to pick up momentum. She was appearing in several soap operas, and her appearance in Genie Oh Genie propelled her into mainstream fame. So what's the connection between Naik's death and this upcoming star? Well, prior to the 27th, Lydia and her mom, Finche Yusuf, paid a visit to her uncle's house. This uncle, Tony Yusuf, told them that he owed bucos money to a loan shark and that these loan sharks were just at his house. They were threatening him to pay his debt with the interest or his life will be on the line. Out of panic, he promised these loan sharks that he will pay up this week, knowing full well that he had no money. He originally asked Lydia and Fincher to borrow money, but they can't provide that much in such short notice. So Fincher asked Lydia if Naik could help. She convinced Lydia that Naik is a very nice and generous person, and if the request comes from her, which is Lydia, he would likely listen to her and agree to help out. And of course, Tony seconds this. He begged Lydia and told her to take him out on a date first and have fun. After that, take him to see us, which of course are Lydia's mom, Fincher, and Tony the uncle. She was reluctant at first, but Tony reassured her that they were just going to talk, making sure that he can help and that there is no malicious intent behind it. So she called him and asked him out on a date, and unfortunately, he eagerly agreed. What this 19-year-old didn't know was that Tony and Fincher will concoct an entirely different plan behind her back. Initially, the plan was to intimidate Naik and eventually rob him of his material possessions. This plan was apparently discussed over the phone between Tony and Fincher, but who suggested it first was unclear. So this is what happened on the 27th of April 2006. At 11 a.m., Tony and Fincher started making arrangements. Each of them had a different role to play. Lydia was tasked to make sure that Naik was still coming. Fincher booked the cottage that they will use to intimidate the victim, and Tony prepared necessary tools that they will use. By 3 p.m., they departed from Fincher and Lydia's house to Plaza Senayan, a prestigious mall located at the center of Jakarta. On the way there, they picked up another person by the name of Ade Sukardi. Ade worked as a security guard at Lydia's housing complex and was recruited by Tony to help him intimidate Naik. When they arrived at Plaza Senayan, Lydia got off and went on her date. Unbeknownst to her what kind of plans Tony, Fincher, and Ade have prepared for Naik. These 3 people then departed to Putri Duyung Cottage, located in Ancol on the northern side of Jakarta. Tony checked in using a fake identity under the name of Hassan bin Idris. Now all that they have to do is wait. By 7 p.m., Lydia as well as Naik arrived at Putri Duyung Cottage, and the moment that Naik entered the cottage, he was pinned by the neck from the back by Ade. Then Tony intimidated him with a knife and yelled at him to not move. He then told Tony to kneel and tied him up with cable ties. Naik was then dragged into a bedroom and pushed onto a bed with his back facing the perpetrators. Tony then took his wallet while demanding to know the PIN number of his debit card. All the while this was happening, Lydia was also receiving the same treatment, of course with lesser force. Naik caught this and immediately suspected Lydia. At that moment, Lydia's mom, Fincher, swooped in and dragged Lydia out of the room and took her home with a taxi. Then a sudden realization came to Tony. He realized that if Naik were to be set free, Lydia's career would be ruined. So he decided to end Naik's life. Naik's head was stabbed twice with an ice pick, and as he yelled out in pain, Ade wrapped his neck with a cable tie. They waited until they were sure that he was dead. At around 1 a.m., Tony and Ade fled the area using Naik's car. After they had reached a certain place, they decided to abandon the car and waited for Fincher and Lydia to pick them up. Fincher and Lydia took them to Mega Proklamasi Hotel, where they would stay for a night and lay low. Fincher then gave 5 million rupiahs that was taken from Naik's account to Tony, and Ade received 2 million rupiah. On the 11th of May, at 5 a.m. in the morning, the 4 suspects were apprehended at each of their own residence. None of them showed any signs of resistance. The court proceedings could be described chaotic at best. The grieving family was obviously very distraught and emotional. Throughout the process, court attendants will hear the sobs and the cries of disapproval from the victim's family. They would shout murder to the 4 suspects, and some family members had to even be escorted out of the courtroom as it was hard for them to control their emotions, which is understandable, but it would definitely hinder the court process. And unfortunately, these emotions turned physical. When Lydia was escorted by police officers to go back to her penitentiary transportation, someone rushed up to her from behind and struck her head with their bare hands. Then another different person immediately did the same thing. The first person was Naik's brother, Choki Hutagalung, and the second person was a man named Salomo. They both had struck Lydia with quite a force that she instantly fell down and was quickly held back up by police officers. They were both apprehended on the spot. When Tony and Fincher were asked by the judge on who was the mastermind of the crime, they kept pointing the finger at each other and tossing around blame. Fincher had spoken during the court proceedings that she considered Naik as her own son and would never suggest such things, which aroused anger in Hotmana. As stated in this article, Hotmana said, "She is lying. We believe that Tony Yusuf is telling the truth." She also added, "She was just trying to gain sympathy. They're killers. If my son was so kind, then why would you have the heart to kill him?" As I mentioned before, the instruction for killing Naik was done over the phone, and apparently the phone call was made inside a car. Judge Karel Tupu instructed prosecutor Alfred Palulungan to provide the phone transcript. However, I couldn't find any news sources that explained what had happened next. The only explanation I could find was that the prosecuting team were still waiting for the phone provider to give them the transcript. It was also alleged that the whole time Fincher and Tony were making the call, Lydia was sitting next to her mom. So the argument was that it was impossible for her not to know about the plan. However, Adi Sukardi had a different testimony. During the trial, Adi denied being the executor and mentioned that Tony single-handedly murdered Naik. This is what he had to say during the trial. When Tony received a call instructing him to kill Naik, I vehemently forbade him, but he remained quiet. Then when I was eating my dinner, away from the bed Naik is on top of, Tony approached me and said that he had already stabbed him twice on the neck. In this trial, Ade didn't mention who the caller was, and I think we can sum it up for ourselves. He also confessed that he had persuaded Tony countless times to not harm Naik and kept reminding him that they were there only to steal his money. After the whole incident, Ade felt extremely guilty towards the grieving family. This is what he had to say. "I didn't know it would turn out this badly. I'm sorry that I hurt a lot of people. I really hope the victim's family can forgive me." For his assistance on Naik's assault, Ade received 2 million rupiahs, which is roughly around $143. And after the incident, Ade constantly received threats from Tony to scare him from ever contacting the police. After a long court process, Lydia and Ade Sukardi were sentenced to 14 years in prison. Fincher received life in prison and Tony received the death penalty.
Saya puas, dia pantas dihukum mati. Dia bukan perempuan orang, itu setan. Di otaknya semua kejahatan. Nanti kalau kita terjadi di sama orang, kasihan. Itu cukup saya aja yang menderita.
Lydia now is a free woman. Due to good behavior, she officially served 7 years in prison and was put on parole for another 7 years. She has since then changed her name and is thinking of going back to the entertainment world. And that was the story of Lydia's fall from grace. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have liked and commented on this video, thank you so much. I appreciate it a lot. Stay well, and I'll see you guys on the next one.